Hey everyone, today we're going to go over another potential juicing method for you. This one's going to be a bit more high investment. We're going to be Deli orbing our maps. We're going to be using gilded scarabs. We're going to be using sextants. We're going to have a very specialized tree for it. In these maps, we can expect some really insane returns as well. We can expect anywhere between 6 to 7 exalted, depending on how fast you can clear these maps and how fast you can loot. So let's look at what we need to be able to set these maps up and run them. Okay, so let's talk about the Atlas. For this one, we're going kind of all over the place. The main goal of this atlas is to pick up everything that gives us more mobs everywhere on the map. We're going to start by picking up all the abyss nodes. These are insane. Abysses add like 50% extra mobs to your maps by picking up all these nodes. These are just more monsters. These are just more monsters. This is one that's insane, 100% more monsters. These small ones are 15% each. It's just this adds a lot of mobs. When you touch an abyss with this strategy, your screen is just going to freeze with just how many mobs spawn every time this stops. We're also going to pick up Harbingers. Harbingers just gives us more monsters. Since we're picking up every single bit of Beyond, the goal of the strategy is to just stack as much pack size and as many monsters together in a small area as possible to create as many Beyond bosses as we can get out of it. We're also going to be running Fortune Flavors the Brave with Shaping the Valleys. This is just going to give us more quant, more pack size, more monsters. We're happy with that. We're picking up everything related to strong boxes as well, except for Concealed Logistics, just because the map strong boxes aren't really that good. We're also picking up Flash Breach. This just makes breaches a lot faster. It makes them a lot more denser. We save time if we ever see one. In terms of things we're blocking Haste. Haste doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't give us extra mobs. Metamorph doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't give us extra mobs. And Delirium, because we're putting Delirium orbs on our maps, we might as well get extra chance to see other things that give us more content. We're also picking up Singular Focus. This way we can sustain our own maps of your choice. This will allow you to get most of them back, if not all of them. And this might even let you sell in a bit of bulk, depending on which extra Delirium rewards you get on your maps. Other than that, we're picking up the Alva stuff. That is good. Time dilation is insane. If you go inside an Alva and this procs and all the monsters are magic, you're going to get a lot of progression out of this. We're picking up these small nodes here because we get more pack size inside of it. And they're picking up all these small nodes as well for more pack size, as well as artifacts to have a chance to get an Alva mission at the end, because eventually we are going to run out of Alva missions and then we'll have to sextant them. Other than that, we're picking up Delusions of Persecution. This, with at least 3 Deli orbs on our map, guarantees we see Kosis and Omni. This just gives us extra loots, and all of this just increases the amount of splinters we get. And then lastly, we are pathing through the top because all these nodes give increased effective modifiers. These give us just more quant, more pack size. It makes our maps a bit harder, but we get more out of it. And we're just picking up all the ones in the middle too. You preferably want to have all of your passive points for this, but if you don't have everything, if you have most of them and you still want to try this, you can get rid of these nodes at the top and instead path down here through the middle and immediately go over to where the Beyond and Delirium stuff is. You could also drop some of the quant in the middle, but ideally you do want most of this. If you're going to skip out on stuff, definitely don't skip out on the Abyss stuff, and definitely don't skip out on any of the full nodes. Preferably get rid of these passive points at the top, as these are just here as they're just our best nodes. Next up, let's talk about the maps you want to run this on. So we have 4 choices. We can either do Tropical Island, we could do Cemetery, we can do Crimson Temple, or we can do Burial Chambers. The selection is really up to you, what you prefer to run. All 4 maps are good. You just want something that has good div rewards from it. The specific map itself doesn't really matter too much. In terms of what we're looking for on the maps, we're looking to roll for at least 80 to 90 quant. It's very easy to hit 80 with a few attempts. I would recommend not to chaos spam for like Beyond. You can roll Beyond on all these maps if you want, and that would increase your profit quite a bit. It just depends on how much you want to set up your maps before doing them. Just rolling for high quant is more than enough. And obviously you just want to get rid of all the mods that you can't do for your build. As for Scarabs, we have a few choices. First off, we want to use Harbinger and Abyss in all of our maps. You can get Gilded Harbinger if you want. Currently, the prices of Gilded Harbingers are a bit too much for just +1 Harby. We don't really see as large of returns, but you would still see returns if you want to juice more, but I wouldn't go below polished. We always use Gilded Abyss. This gives us 2 additional abysses. We get 50% more monsters. This is just amazing. These Scarabs honestly make these maps what they are with all the quant everywhere. These are also very, very cheap. They're like 5-6C in bulk. They're highly worth the price. They give you so many mobs on top of the rest of the map. They're highly worth it. Next up, we have a bit of a choice. Ideally, we would be running Gilded Divination and Gilded Ambush. You can go down to Polished Ambush. They're like 3-4C each versus Divination, which are like 10 to 12. Gilded would be better. It also depends on the map you're running. Maybe on Tropical Island specifically, it might not be worth running Gilded Divination. It might be worth running just Polished, but on the other 3 maps, on Cemetery, on Crimson Temple, on Burial Chambers, you most certainly want to run Gilded Divination instead. And then lastly, we want to run Gilded Ambush. Since we're stacking so many modifiers for our strong boxes, Gilded Ambush gives us the most returns. Now, Gilded Ambush currently are a bit overpriced. They're around like 13 to 15 chaos. And you might not necessarily see as good of returns versus using Polished, but Polished are also pretty overpriced. They're like 9 to 10 as well. I would highly recommend if you're going to do Ambush, just do Gilded. Don't bother with Polished. The price difference between Polished and Gilded is so little. It's easier to just get Gilded. Other options are you can instead run Gilded Legion. These are 3 chaos each, and they more than pay for themselves, both in the amount of monsters we put on the maps and just the rewards from the legions themselves. And Gilded Breach. These with Flash Breach are amazing. You will spawn like 30 Beyond bosses. They are extremely good. They're very cheap as well. They're like 5C. Overall, our Scarab prices aren't very high. Okay, so the next part is the most important part of all this. This is where we get all of our juice. This is where we make all of our money. And this is what makes all this super worth it. So we're going to talk about Sextants. Now, the most important Sextants here is this 2 combo right here. First, we want to have just more Beyond on our maps. This plus the Beyond available from the Atlas will give you quite a lot of monsters. You can roll Beyond on your maps on top of this if you'd like, but you don't necessarily need to. It's also does become a bit more costly finding Beyond that way. But this, when coupled with this other compass, unique monsters, drop corrupted items, is going to drop a lot of 6 links. Those 6 links are going to vendor for divines, and those divines are actually quite a decent amount of money. For 8 maps that we ran like this, we can see that Divine Orbs were actually the most amount of money that we got for a single item out of all this, right? We had almost an Exalted and Divine Orbs alone in 8 maps. You are going to see about 3, 4, 6 links per map. This does feel nerfed compared to last season, but still very, very strong for the price. Next up, we're going to use Delirium. Reward bars fill 100% faster. This you can swap out for either additional breaches or additional abysses, depending on the Delirium orbs you're looking to put on your maps. If you're just putting whatever Delirium orbs, you don't really want to use this. But if you're looking to put good Delirium orbs, such as Skittering or Fine or Essence or Metamorph or any of the high return ones, you'll definitely want this because then you can get to reward level 17, reward level 18. And if your map is specifically juicy, you might be able to even hit 19. And that will give you a lot of returns. This basically will double the money you make from the maps if you're running good Scarabs. If you're running whatever, like armor or weapon or jewelry, don't bother using this. It's not going to really do anything for you. You might as well just run an extra breach or an extra abyss. Lastly, since we're adding a lot of strong boxes to our maps, we should run strong boxes are enraged. This gives us 500% increased quant. This lets us see better rewards from them consistently. And with the Atlas passives that we're picking, the duplicated currency and the duplicated divination card, these apply to every single strong box, not specifically diviners and arcanists. So if we can get random currency, we duplicate it, and with 500% increased quant, we'll see them a lot more often. This also gives us an extra strong box, which just makes the rest of our Atlas tree better. Lastly, the most important thing we need to talk about is what we're going to be doing with our map device. So we always want to run Fortune Favors the Brave. We're shaping the valleys, which is giving us increased quantity and increased pack size. This is very important. We always want to run an influence, either Searing Exarch or Eater of Worlds. For our strategy, we're doing Searing Exarch since we picked up the pack size nodes over there. And then we always want to put an alva on our maps. Now, if you run out of alvas, you will have to use an alva compass instead. And if you need to do that, then you should replace your Deli Orbs, give 100% more rewards, unless you are running very good Delirium Orbs. If you need more alpha missions and you have to compass it and you're using good Deli Orbs, you should instead get rid of the Strongbox one, as that is the next weakest one. Lastly, let's talk about something that's very important, but you might not think is very important to these kind of maps. Let's talk about our graphics options. So with these maps, you will potentially hit 1 FPS very quickly. One thing I would highly recommend is basically turning all of your settings to the lowest, and most importantly, coming down here and turning on dynamic culling and dynamic resolution. These maps will have so many mobs in them that you can very easily just almost crash out of them, and dynamic resolution really helps with at least maintaining a stable frame rate. This also depends on how many Deli Orbs you put on your map, and it depends on how many you can handle. If you're just putting 3 Deli Orbs and your build can handle it just fine, you shouldn't have any problems. 4, it can get dicey at times if you're doing like a abyss that spawns a lot of beyond monsters at the same time, while there's just other packs from the map running at you. And if you're running 5, and if you don't have extremely high DPS, you will just chug for most of the maps all over the place, as everything will live so long, everything will die so slowly, and there'll be so much math going on from you attacking everything that your frame rate will just suffer the whole time. So do be warned about that. Let's talk about the maps themselves and what to expect in the maps. You will have to go a bit slower. These aren't maps that you do very quickly. On average, each map was taking me anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes to fully clear. Ideally, you want to kill everything in there. Everything you leave behind is just missed currency and missed attempts at getting beyond bosses. You don't really want to rush forward too much other than like chasing down Abyss. You want to take your time and kill every pack. Some areas can get a bit scary, especially if you have a lot of overlapping things happening at the same time, such as an Abyss with a bunch of beyond bosses, or maybe a random Legion or a Breach that spawns a lot of beyond bosses, and maybe a Breach Lord. You do want to be a bit careful through this, and it really depends on your build. If you're playing something incredibly tanky, then you should have no problem. If you're playing something a bit squishy, you might have to be a bit careful, depending on what altar options you pick as well. As for looting this map, I highly recommend as soon as you walk into the map, you just press C and ignore all loot. Just clear the whole map and then loot after. Depending on your filter, and I highly recommend you run a very strict filter for this. It will take you 5 to 10 minutes to loot everything. On average, I was able to complete about 4 maps an hour. I would say about 60 to 70% of my time in the maps was spent killing stuff, and then the other 40 to 25% of the time was spent looting, depending on how much stuff we got. I wouldn't recommend hiding singular simulacrum splinters. While they seem like a pain in the ass to pick up, they actually do add to a decent amount of money, even with simulacrums not being worth much. I would, though, recommend hiding singular breach splinters. Breach splinters really aren't worth anything. We're mostly just killing the breaches to get beyond chances to get 6 links. So please make sure your filter's tighten enough. You could be losing quite a lot of money per hour just spending time looting more. Typically for me, it takes 2 to 3 portals to finish looting everything, depending on how many 6 links I get. So do be wary of that. Try to loot a bit of the things along the way, maybe like big stacks when your Delirium Orbs level up, or just pick up any 6 links you see to help you with looting later, especially if you die. Like if you can die, but you have half to a full inventory of stuff on you, it's basically the same thing as you leaving. Dying here isn't really too much of a scare, depending again on your build, but you do want to keep that in mind. You might die so much that you don't have any portals left to fully loot your map. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the loots that you can expect from this and what our loot looks like from doing this for 8 maps. These are my total prices for setting up 24 maps in total. As you can see, we spend 10.4x setting all this up. Buying everything took me about 1 hour in total. This could be made a bit faster if I didn't do it at 4 in the morning and I didn't have to buy my Sextants off of trade. Honestly, trade isn't too bad. I wouldn't be too much worried about the sextants, since again, you get 4 uses per. It really only takes 10-20 minutes to get all of your sextants, and you get to save quite a lot of money compared to TFT. But obviously, you can also go to TFT and get it done in 3 minutes and have all of your sextants. As for orbs, I was trying to buy in bulks of 5 and above. I wasn't really worrying about 1 or 2 orbs. It's okay if we pay an extra 1 or 2 chaos per orb. We make more than enough money. You are just simply looking to get through this as fast as you can without losing too much time, right? Every single bit of time you're spending outside of your map is time you're not earning money. So it's okay to buy for 10 plus orbs at a time if it means you're doing more maps. In terms of the loot itself, I mostly ran Essence on mine. Honestly, Essences are a dark horse in terms of Deli orbs. I bought all of my Essence orbs for about 10 chaos each, and they more than paid for themselves and made quite a lot of money. Selling these wouldn't be too hard. We would simply just bulk sell them on TFT, and we should be able to extract 70 to 80% of the value of them. In terms of raw currency, we have quite a few stacks of chaos here and there. We did get 1 exalted orb. We did get 17 divine orbs, quite a bit of eldritch currency, 3 simulacrums, and then just a bunch of other random stuff. In excellence, we can see that we earned 11.69 exalted and 8 maps, and this took us about 2-ish hours to get through, give or take. So we were earning somewhere around 6 exalted per hour. I believe this is a bit higher. I think these prices went down simply because of the market, but it was about 6 exalted per hour, with each map costing somewhere around half an exalted to set up. And most of the money is in essences, in divine orbs, in simulacrums, and a few other small things, right? This would definitely be something that you'd be bulk selling once you are done with it. That's about it though. It's very simple. It is a bit time consuming to set these maps up, but you can most certainly do them in big bulk, right? I did 24 of them at the same time. It took me about an hour to do so. And those 24 maps can last me anywhere between 6 to 7 hours. So this can very easily fulfill a full day of mapping, and you can make quite a lot of money off of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please let me know. I am always live on Twitch pretty much every moment of every day. Please do come by. I would be more than happy to answer your questions, or if you just want to come hang out. We'll be doing a bit more of this throughout the next few days if you'd like to see this for yourselves. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I appreciate you for coming by.